day 3 of Crimson Dawn as part of the Halloween Week special. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and thank you again for watching, and let's get to it. Following the explosion in Lee's apartment, JJ is helping Lee pick through his valuables while Lee's on the phone with his insurance company.
I'm sorry, you don't cover explosions? It was random, and in no way did I know that the pipes would explode. It was a faulty natural gas explosion.
Pipes? Lee covers the phone.
Yeah, everyone knows exploding robots are covered under a renter's policy.
Oh, right.
Yes, I'm still here. Make a list of all the valuables destroyed?
He looks at the blackened mess that was formerly his apartment.
Yeah, I could do that. No problemo. Thank you. Good afternoon to you too.
As he hangs up, he sees JJ staring at him.
The customer service center is in Malaysia.
I see. Luca runs in. Guys, I can't find Nadja.
Really? The explosion we just experienced isn't registering with you?
What?
No. I've had enough of this charade. Let's take stock here. Luca here meets a random lady one night in my breezeway who asked him for his help, refusing to divulge any information on the job. This jackass readily accepts the job, not knowing said woman is a blood-sucking vampire who just as well eat him like a Twinkie, and then she gives us this cockamamie story about Nazis turning vampires into robots or whatever, sends us to New Orleans, where we're knee-deep in literal shit, bring back a robot that looks like a Comic-Con costume, and it goes off and blows half of my apartment away, nearly killing us in the process. Now, I'm literally left with nothing, and you're concerned about a woman who probably set this entire thing up in the first place just to F with us?
No, and yes, and no again. Lee stares in amazement at the casual response when JJ chirps up. When you mentioned Nadja eating Luca like a Twinkie, was that like a racial thing? Lee responds by chucking his phone at JJ. As Lee fumes, Luca hears his phone buzz and answers. Hello? Are you the Bushwackers? Yes, who's this? We have your friend. What? Where is she? Is she alright? You will desist your investigations at once. You will no longer pursue this line of inquiry. Or what? The line goes dead. Luca turns around to face Lee and JJ. What's up? They have Nadja.
Who's they?
I don't know. The Nazis? The same people who built that thing. The thing that just exploded.
Wonderful.
Is there a number on the caller ID? No, it was an anonymous call. I don't know who it was. And yet they managed to get your number. Well, we do put it on the ad, so it wasn't hard to figure out. True.
You know, if my apartment hadn't been blown to God knows what, I would have used my computer to say, triangulate the call, assuming my apartment was still intact. Just saying. You know?
But we gotta find her.
God damn it, Luca. You really owe me a new apartment.
In 1943, the original Dr. Obertaub walks over to a robotic vampire strapped to the table. He taps on the glass dome in a half-mocking manner. Count Melchior, can you hear me? The robotic vampire slowly comes to and sees Obertaub. It screeches and struggles against its restraints. The soldiers aim their guns at it, but Obertaub motions them to lower their guns. No, you fools. Those will have no effect on it. Its armor is from the new Panzer tanks, impervious to small arms fire and grenades. A true machine of war, with the mind of a killer at the wheels. He looks over at the former Count Melchior. And he is under my thrall. Aren't you, Count? The vampire merely hisses. Obertaub turns to see the other vampires watching in horror at what's become of their former leader. Behold, my children, spawn from German industry and folklore. Fear not. You will retain your immortality, but you will fly under both sun and moon. The Luftwaffe will fly with its new allies to destroy London, New York, and Moscow. He turns to gaze at the Count. What can stop us now? Back in the present, the Bushwackers have looked into several possible leads. A few days later, our heroes find themselves at an abandoned military base in New Jersey. As they go through the gate, they look at the dilapidated buildings. They enter one of the hangars and notice a workstation. As Lee accesses it, the hangar lights up and the floors open up to reveal an elevator. They soon find themselves descending into an underground base where everything appears futuristic and sleek. As they explore the lab, Lucas sees a glowing pod. As he draws near, he sees, to his horror, that there's a brain inside of it, with cables attached to the brainstem. Lee presently joins him, but then nudges him, and they see rows of glowing jars with brains in there. What do you think they do with the bodies? Lee doesn't answer, but continues forward, walking past the brains. He gets the feeling that some of them are aware of his presence and are turning in his direction as he tries his best to ignore this possibility. Meanwhile, JJ walks over to a railing and looks down to see a mass of cybernetic suits. Presently, Lee and Luca join him.
What the hell have we stumbled onto?
The future. They turn to see a tall man with the classical features of an Aryan walk towards them, flanked by 2 armed guards. Well, this is a fine facility you have here. And the follow-through is just extraordinary.
Luca, stop complimenting him. He's a Nazi. You're a Nazi, right?
No, Mr. Suchek, I am not. Gentlemen, this is not a grand occasion. The great Bushwackers are here to stop us. They begin to laugh contemptuously at this remark. Dr. Obertaub, I presume? Well, not the original. I'm his great-grandson, continuing his legacy. All this, gentlemen, is a summation of a man who worked hard to harness the supernatural and bring it within the control of the mundane. The immortal, subjected to the will of the mortal, for his own purpose. You mean war? You disapprove? Well, that's all fine and Jim dandy, but why restart the project? Didn't this end after World War II? Obertaub turns around. The world has changed since then, Bushwackers. Really? Because I think there's more to this than just profit. Come on, Obertaub, what's this really all about? Probably just a coincidence, not the cause. Obertaub's face flinches as he draws his breath. He walks over to a pot and lovingly strokes it. The Bushwackers exchange quizzical looks. I fell in love with a woman once. She was the one I would have given anything for, and at one time I did. To me, she could do no wrong, even when she did wrong. And how she did wrong. She lied, stole, cheated, and cuckolded me, but I bore it with the patience of a devoted husband. You see, I took my vows seriously. And still do. He holds up his ring finger. I faced ridicule from all sides, people who said I was blind. And I was blind, but I willed it. How could I ever turn in anger to someone I pledged myself to? And in spite of her flaws, she loved me, and I knew she cared, even amidst the litany of sins. He then winces in pain and taps the glass. But then it all changed. As if a sudden wave swept away all that love. She met a man at a nightclub, and they began a liaison. I knew at once this man was different from the others. I tried to protect her, but she defied me. It was as if she was under a spell or something. She was compelled towards him. He wanted her. He hungered for her. And she was happy to oblige. He fed on her and turned her into one of them. And her wantonness just increased by the day, but this was the final humiliation. She screamed in pain as she turned from this beautiful creature into something so foul and dark. I dug into my great-grandfather's notes and finally decided to embrace my legacy. He dramatically gestures to the pods. I subdued her, at nearly the cost of my own life, and placed her in a prototype. I was delighted at what I had done, but it sickened me to my core all at once. And I could tell she despised the two states she was in now, both vampire and cyborg. But even more, I knew she now despised me for having done this to her. And I loved her enough to grant her clemency. I didn't tint the dome and exposed her to sunlight. How she died! I can still hear her to this day. And the screams are modified so they don't replicate that scream. The vampire robot we encountered in New Orleans. The one and the same who turned my beloved Sonia into a monster. It took me years to find this creature. Yet fate would hand him to me as he was the one investigating my creatures and he knew it was me. He too missed my Sonia and wanted to know what became of her. Said he could train her to quell the bloodlust. As if I was insufficient. I laughed at him and did what I had dreamt of all those years. And when I did, I subjected him to the horrors of my grandfather's experiments. You intentionally botched the operation. Yes, and he became frenzied, unable to be satisfied from feeding, unable to think straight, until a moment of clarity when he saw what he finally was. What he became. He knew that his precious Sonia had met the same fate as before.
What? You could read their thoughts? You have a machine that can track their brain patterns and...
He sees a machine matching the description.
Holy shit. Why do we even bother?
But gentlemen, you must understand, I am no more different than you. We both fight monsters and we both sacrifice our joys for the greater good.
And you'll probably suggest we form a partnership or something.
I mean, if you think about it, he actually has a pretty novel yet sustainable business model.
What? Kidnapping vampires? And turning them into killing machines? Have you ever seen RoboCop 2?
There are no vampires in that movie.
No, idiot. But what he's doing is, in principle, no different from OCP in the movie.
Huh. You're going to have to explain it to me a little more clearly.
Damn it. Taking dangerous people and turning them into cyborgs? Kane was a crazy drug dealer, and then they put his nuke riddled brain into that mecha? Ringing any bells yet?
Their teeth thuds, and the two turn to see two enormous metallic gargoyles flanking Obertaub. The doctor smiles. Gentlemen, would you like to meet my latest recruits? Oh, Mr. Suwon, I believe one of them you already know? One of the robot vampires screeches and begins to advance. Nadja? Nadja, is that you? The robot stops for a second and lowers its head. Before Luca can react, the machine spreads its wings and flies upward. Do you think she's remembering me?
Highly unlikely.
As he says this, the vampire dive bombs and the three get out of the way, but the floor gives way and they all fall into the opening. As they scurry away, they hear gunfire ring above and they take cover behind several empty suits.
Well, this is going well.
If we can reprogram Nadja, maybe she can help us.
Somehow I doubt that's even an option.
We have to try. Luca runs off to the main lab, where he sees a few empty tanks with liquid oozing out. Before he can do anything, one of the robot vampires lands in front of him, screeching. He backs away, and the tip of the creature's iron wings scrape against the floor, creating sparks. You see smoke emanate from the goo and rolls out of the way as the creature slams its fist into one of the consoles. Obertaub sees this and yells at the creature. Be careful, you cretin! You'll end up destroying my lab! Luca gets an idea and begins hurling objects at the creature to get its attention. The monster turns around and drags its wings, creating more sparks. Soon a fire erupts and Obertaub screams for his underlings to put the fire out as the creature prepares to punch. As it does so, Luca ducks, causing the robot vampire to punch Obertaub through a metal wall. One of the vampires scurries over, grabbing Obertaub and pointing at Luca before screeching. Luca jumps down the hole and crawls next to Lee. I think that's done it.
Really? That was your grand plan? To set this place ablaze?
Well, that and now their big chief's probably gonna be concussed.
Probably. I'd be surprised if he could even tie his shoelaces.
Guys! They scurry over to see JJ has pried open the vent. Lee nervously eyes the vent before looking up to see robot vampires surrounding the hole and screeching.
You got me sold.
They leap into the vent as the vampires land and begin tearing the wall with fury. As the Bushwackers slide down, they see one of the robotic vampires in pursuit, but it suddenly stops. It looks around, screeching as it realizes it's too big and is now stuck. Presently, they land in a sewer. Lee flies out of the vent and lands into the muck, where he rises out, again covered in the ooze.
God almighty, not this again! This cannot keep happening!
They hear the screeches from the vents along with tearing and gnawing noises. They slosh through the sewer.
Alright. If we keep going this way, then we should make it to... What's the nearest town? Hoboken?
I think so. JJ? They turn to see JJ's vanished.
The hell? Wasn't he just there?
I think so. Come on. I bet there's a junction he took the other way.
We know there was no juncture, dude.
You know you're getting shit on me, right?
I know.
As Lucas scowls, the lights flicker, and Lee sees that Lucas vanished. Lee's eyes widen as he backs away.
Oh no! Not this! Man, not today!
As he backs away, we see a tall figure behind him. Lee notices a presence and turns around, and the cloak wraps around him and it fades to black with Lee screaming. Back in 1943, we see an American patrol in southern Italy moving very quietly. As they move, we see their movements from a predator's perspective. As the patrol moves, they stop after hearing some rustling. After a few seconds, they continue forward. It then cuts to the office where we see Dr. Obertaub observing this through a screen. He presses a button and speaks into the microphone. Now, Count. The patrol is moving quietly along when there's a screech. Before they can react, there's a scream as one of the soldiers vanishes, followed by another. They open fire, but do not hit anything. Suddenly, the lieutenant is all by himself as he looks around. He turns to see the robotic vampire before him, its jaws dripping with blood. The lieutenant opens fire, but the vampire grabs his arms and breaks them and then closes in for the kill. Obertaub watches with satisfaction. Count. You may be a vampire, but truly you are a patriot, a son of the Reich. We have many, many wars for you to fight, all against the enemies of the Aryan race. We see the Count standing over its kill, screeching, its wings extended as the dawn rises. As he screeches, we see more vampires being strapped to slabs, with doctors preparing to drill into their skulls to extract their brains. We see a shot of Greta, resigned to her fate after seeing what happened to the Count. She can only look away as the drill draws closer to her, preparing to turn her into another monstrosity.